Have you ever wondered what the court system's like in the foster care system? Well, good news. Today we're going to talk all about that. The court system in foster care, I don't care what foster parent you talk to, I think the best word to describe it is it's a mess. And it's a mess for a reason, because you're dealing with parents and their children, and it gets really sticky and really muddy. And as a foster parent, you're only going to be concerned about the foster child that you have in your custody, but the court system has to look at the big picture, and they have to think about the big picture. They also have to think about that reunification is always the goal. And so all of their decisions are made around how does this help or hurt reunification. And again, reunification isn't guaranteed 100% of the time, but that's the goal. And I will tell you that the last number that I saw was around 70% of all foster children are reunified with their bio parents, and it's closer to like 80% if you count guardianship with relatives and some things of that nature. So again, reunification is the goal, and most of the time that's what happens. So I want to sort of walk through what happens first. Children's Protective Services receives a call of some neglect or abuse or something, or the police or the school or somebody contacts and says, hey, I believe there's abuse. And either the police investigate it, or social services investigates it. And at some point in time, sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes a few days, they make a determination that they feel that the children are that are not in a safe place, that there's neglect, there's an abuse, there's a host of other things, and that the children need to be removed. As soon as they're removed, a court appearance is set up. And at that court appearance, the Children's Services provides evidence to say why they believe that the children should be removed. Now, the bio parents also can have their attorney there to contest all of that evidence, and so this can take a little bit of time. Sometimes it happens immediately, and sometimes it can drag on for a long period of time. I know cases where the judge doesn't rule on temporary custody it takes almost a year for that to happen. Now, those children are still in foster care during that time, but there's no case plan made because there's been no ruling that neglect or abuse has happened at that point. So once the ruling happens, then the next thing that happens in the court system is a case plan is made. And so the case plan is for a whole bunch of things. So there's a case plan for the children. What services do they need? Do they need medical attention? Do they need therapy? Should they be in preschool? Should they go to counseling? The host of things, right? And so there's a case plan for the kids, and then there's a case plan for the bio parent or parents. And the case plan may differ between the husband and the wife, or if it's just a single, whatever. But those case plans may be that they have to go to a drug rehab, or that they have to get counseling, or they have to go to parenting classes. There's a host of things. And so this case plan is put together, the judge signs off on it, and so that starts the process. And so everything is measured on how are we doing compared to the case plan. Now, the case plan can change based on the need. So once the bio parents complete whatever they had on their case plan, the county may recommend that they feel like there's additional services that the bio parents need to do. And if the judge agrees with that, then that's ordered at the same time. And so that's how the process works. And so the other thing to remember is court is every 3 months. So nothing happens quickly. So you have a case, and then you have to wait 3 months, and we come back, we reconvene, and we talk about it. And so nothing in the court system moves fast. Just understand that. And court as a foster parent, you're allowed to attend court, but you don't learn a lot. Matter of fact, you'll want to talk to the GAL and the caseworker afterwards to understand what actually happened, because I'll explain why in a minute. But trust me, it's like, wait, what just happened? So, as a foster parent, you have a legal right to go to every court appearance. Now, you do not necessarily have the right to speak at court. The judge or the magistrate may ask if you have something to add, but I just want you to hear this crystal clear. You can say whatever you want, and the judge will listen to you, but you don't have very much weight with regards to the judge. The GAL and the caseworker and the bio-parent's attorney have way more weight in what the judge's decision is than you. And I know that doesn't seem fair, but I'm just telling you, part of the reason why is because you don't have a biased opinion. You're only worried about the kids, and that's your job. But the judge is worried about the big picture. Remember, I told you, he's worried about reunification. She's worried about reunification. And so they may ask your opinion. Every court appearance, I went to every court appearance, and every single time they asked if I had anything to add, and I simply said I was here to understand how the case was going, and the judge liked that, and that was it. So, if you want to get your opinion in, then talk to your caseworker. If you have a CASA, talk to your CASA, talk to your GAL. Now, they may not agree with you, and there's not a lot you can do about it, but understand that that's the way it works. So here's the frustrating part about the court system. You show up 15 minutes before your court appearance time, and you notice that bio mom and dad are there, your caseworker's there, the GAL's there, there's another attorney there, which happens to be the attorney for the bio parent, and you see them running in and out of these rooms talking to each other all the time. You go into the courtroom, and the longest I've ever been in the courtroom for a normal, just updated case, so not doing the case plan, just, how is the case plan progressing and so on and so forth. The longest I've ever been in there is 11 minutes. 11 minutes is the longest. I've been in court cases that I was in the courtroom from the time they hit the timer was 6 minutes. And so it goes quick. And, the judge asks the GAL and the caseworker questions. They ask the attorney for the bio parents. And then he says, yeah. And he says, we'll see you in 3 months. And you look around and you're like, what just happened? Here's what's happened. The judge has to approve it. But everything, remember I told you that you see these people running into these rooms and they come out and they're talking and they're talking back and forth. Well, everything that needed to be decided in the courtroom was already talked between the parties, and they just presented it to the judge, and the judge said, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree, and it was done because both parties had already agreed or partially agreed with whatever they were talking about. And so the judge simply, or the magistrate, simply said, guess what? I agree or I disagree. I think this is too fast. I think it's too slow. Yada, yada, yada. End of story. And so as foster parent, you're like, what just happened? Well, because you didn't hear all the other stuff. You expect to hear all that stuff in the courtroom. And in a lot of cases, you don't. You just hear the synopsis of what was discussed. That's frustrating. Here's the other thing that's frustrating. You have to remember, the judge is always going to rule on reunification if possible. And you probably aren't going to feel the same way. You're not going to feel that the birth parents are working their plan well enough, or they're putting on a front, and that's all they're doing. And as soon as they get their kids back, they're going to go back to their old ways. And that may be true. But understand that all they have to do is the bare minimum of whatever's written on their case plan. As long as they do it to the bare minimum, they get their kids back. And I know that that doesn't sound fair, and it's probably not fair. I'm not here to argue if it is or it isn't. But I'm telling you, they only have to do the bare minimum. And your standards are here, their standards are here, and it seems completely unfair, and I guess it probably is unfair. But understand that's the way it works. And so what I want to do is give you a real live example of what this looks like. So our girls had been living with us for almost 2 years. And in that 2 years, their guardian had not passed a drug test in that two-year period of time. And so the judge basically said, you either need to get your act together or we're going to take your kids from you. That scared him. And so he went into a 60-day rehab program. So inpatient 60-day rehab program. And he came out of the rehab program and they tested him and he didn't have any drugs or alcohol in his system. Well, of course not, because you can't get drugs and alcohol when you're in rehab. That's simple, right? And within literally a few weeks, they started unsupervised visits. And again, remember, 2 years of not passing a drug test, 60-day rehab. Within 3 weeks, he was doing unsupervised visits. They were getting ready to do overnight. We were getting ready to move to overnight visits. And the GAL told me that based on what she saw, she was thinking reunification was going to happen within a couple months. So this was 2 months after rehab. So again, it makes zero sense. And then some things happened, and unfortunately, he had a relapse again, and so it all went sideways. But understand, that's the way the court system works. And everybody, me, my wife, the GAL, the caseworker, all knew that this was too fast. But it didn't matter because he had met the minimum standard. And that's the way it works. And I'm just going to tell you, it's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And you're going to get mad at the courts. But I want you to remember one thing. Imagine being a judge. Imagine being a magistrate and having to make a ruling that takes children away from their parents and seeing the pure emotion of terror and heartbreak in those parents. Imagine doing that. And imagine getting it wrong. That's the key. Imagine that these birth parents needed one more month, and it was going to be one more month and they were going to turn the corner. And I know at a certain point you just have to say enough's enough. But understand, they don't want to get it wrong because there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake. There's children at stake. And even if it's best that the children are removed, the children don't want to be removed. They want to go back with birth parents, no matter what they've done to them. And so they may say different, but trust me, as they get older, you will find out that that was not true. So understand, court system is frustrating. My suggestion is, when you go to court, don't expect anything. If you do that, you'll be a lot happier than if you don't. Because here's the other thing that's going to happen. I'm just going to tell you, your caseworker is going to say, oh yeah, the judge is going to order that the next court date is going to be for, a permanency case, meaning they're going to be removed. You're going to get to court, and then you're going to walk out, and you're going to be like, that didn't sound like we were talking about permanency, and your caseworker is going to say, yeah, it all changed, today, and now we're going to give them another 6 months. And you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, you told me that that adoption was probably 6 months away. Now you're telling me it's going to be another 6 months before we even start talking about it? Yes. It's just frustrating. And understand it is, there's no easy way to get around it. Just try to remember it's a mess, and they always want reunification. And if you remember that, it will make it easier to understand. It will not make it easier on your heart. It will not make it easier on your emotions. But understand the court system is a mess. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, give me a thumbs up and think about subscribing. I'm constantly coming up with new material like this. Until next time, have a great day.